that's cool. It's like 64 gigs of RAM. So this thing is kitted out. NVMe boot drive, 512 gig. Steam is having trouble. Looks like there was some major maintenance on it yesterday. Alright, I'm gonna give Steam one more shot. I'll switch to the US server. Nope. Right. Alright. Gaming's not all this laptop has to offer anyway. Part of the whole appeal here is unleashing your potential. So, if we want to build something, we're going to have to install some build tools. We're looking at a key map. So there are two layers on a typical laptop keyboard. Your standard, keyboard, and then also the keys that, happen when you press the function key. So you can press function and plus and minus, for example, to change the backlight brightness of the keyboard. You can press function and, F9 to increase the brightness of the monitor, or F8 to decrease it, F6 to enable the sound to go up and down. Those are all handled here. This block here, this upper block, is our regular keys. You can see we've got escape, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, blah, 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 blah. And it's all laid out in the order you see them in the keyboard. Similarly, we've got the same thing down here. I'm not entirely sure why, but there's not a whole lot assigned to function and, the regular keys. So let's just say, for giggles, let's change let's change function T to something else. Well, let's just change it to L. So we can just do function L and then TT, or function T and then TT, and we've got LTT. Now I need to close all running applications, unplug everything from the computer aside from the power adapter, meaning you'll lose screen cap, sorry, and run make flash internal. I'm more excited than I should be for my stupid little custom key map, because it really is truly stupid. Alright, we're back. Let's open up our text editor, and let's see what happens. Function T. That looks like an L. Shift T, that is capital L. T, T, L, L, T, T, L, L, T, T, L, L, T, T. This is way more amusing than it should be, but basically I can make any key on the keyboard, any other key on the keyboard. You can change the layout of the keyboard at your own whim, and that's just the start of it. You can change the fan profiles, you can change all kinds of stuff in the embedded controller here, and that's all built into the Oryx Pro. Like, it's pretty amazing. So what you're getting is basically complete control over the computer. Like, the embedded controller handles, power delivery. It handles the fan curves, like I said, the voltage curves, the frequency curve, all of that stuff is handled in the embedded controller, and it's completely open. The only problem is that there is a price to all of this, which is $16.99, and that's for a 15.6-inch panel, GeForce RTX 2060, and a 250GB SSD, which is SATA on the base model. So you've got some upgrades to do, but the good news is you can do them. What is the price of freedom, really? You've got a completely open source operating system you can do whatever you want with. You've got a completely open source firmware you can do whatever you want with. You can adjust the internal spec of the computer as much as you want. You can expand it with Thunderbolt. You can choose to run it with or without the NVIDIA graphics card. It's a cliche, and I already used it in this video, but it's basically the Apple of the Linux world. You're paying a premium, but, you are getting a pretty premium machine. I think it feels fantastic. I think the philosophy behind it is fantastic. The company behind it is pretty great. The CEO, I met him a little while ago at the Superfan 3D event. He kind of gives me a Hank Scorpio vibe, and, I want to support that. Again, it's just, how much are you willing to pay for it? That's the question you have to ask. These guys are premium. You get a premium product. Is that what you want for Linux? That's what I want. But it's a question you're going to have to ask yourself. Thanks for watching. Make sure to get subscribed so you can see more short circuits like this one or unlike this one. This is kind of different. And see you later. Excuse me. I'm allergic to short circuit. System 76 is a bit of an odd company. When you think about it, they've got all of these products that are relatively high-end, and yet
there's no denying that the trend in mobile devices is towards making them thinner and lighter, even if it means sacrificing features that we used to take for granted, like user-swappable batteries, extensive I/O options, or even something as basic as a headphone jack. Well, as for Panasonic, their SZ55 takes that trend and
Friggin' chokeslams it.
I mean, almost literally, look at this freaking thing. So Panasonic sponsored this video and sent over not just the Toughbook 55, but also this box of upgrade modules. Fingerprint reader, RFID reader, Blu-ray drive. Is that a graphics card? And all of these can be user upgraded if you have the inclination. And the crazy part? It's not even that thick. Oh my god, it has a SIM slot. I love this thing. Now, first and foremost, the Toughbook 55 is, of course, a laptop. So it comes equipped with Intel's 8th generation codenamed Whiskey Lake processors, up to 64 gigs of RAM. Check this out. As a touchscreen model with stylus support, and then it has some other stuff that most people might not really think of. So one is backwards compatibility with both Panasonic's previous generation desk docks and car docks, just in case you need to dock your laptop in the car. It's got a quad array microphone and, get this, they claim 92 decibel peak loudness speakers. So I gotta hear these. So, sorry, the idea behind that is that it can both hear you and be heard, even under challenging conditions like, and get this is right from their literature, a police cruiser going down the highway with the windows down and the sirens on. Very specific. So each of these like little modular pieces right here can be removed from the laptop and then have additional components swapped into them. And here's a really crazy one. There's a quick release latch for the storage because you never know when you're going to need to rip the SSD out of your drive, put it in a paper shredder, and like freaking hard bail, right? Like what? I don't know how much I'm like supposed to pick and prod at this thing, but I'm like super curious what's under here too. It's funny, there's always like really cool technology in the consumer space, and then there's really cool technology in the enterprise space. And the kinds of solutions that they build are just things that you would have never considered that anybody needed. And actually, on that note, it can be configured with RAID 1 so that you have real-time data mirroring with the optional. So it's just a standard M.2 drive, and it's just got a little carrier PCB that adapts it to this hot pluggable interface. I actually don't know that it is, strictly speaking, hot pluggable. In fact, it probably isn't. Hopefully it's been back up. Mercifully, I was at least in sleep when I unplugged that, so I'm gonna put it back in and see if this thing fires back up immediately. Okay, we're in the BIOS. I guess that's the perfect opportunity to bring up that this thing has a ton of security features, including Trusted Platform Module 2.0 Intel vPro, NIST BIOS protection, 256-bit AES Wi-Fi encryption, optional OPAL encrypted drives, and a variety of options for 2FA. Oh, there we go. Okay, rebooting got the SSD to pick back up again. That was pretty dumb. So that brings us perfectly into our first upgradability adventure. So right over here on this side is a smart card reader. And if you don't work in the enterprise space, you might probably think that it's sort of pointless to have like, smart card readers in your laptop. But actually, a lot of enterprises use these as a second factor for things like accessing confidential information, like, say, a client's medical records. That's not the only option, though. So let's go ahead and have a look at what else we've got here. This is a fingerprint reader module. Okay? Pretty straightforward. So from the bottom here, there we go. We go ahead and pop that out. Pop that in. And there we go. Now we have a fingerprint sensor. Picked up just like that. So let's go ahead and try it. Boom. Logged in. I like this thing. But let's say our organization doesn't like fingerprint readers for second factors. Now we've got an RFID reader. So there it is right there. Flip this puppy over. And now we have an RFID reader there. And if you're not into RFID, there's also the Windows Hello infrared facial scanner. So basically the idea here is that even though this is clearly not the most space-efficient way to add something as simple as an RFID scanner to a laptop, you're not stuck with any biometric security options that you don't want, and you have only the ones that you do need. Now, not everybody needs that stuff, and that's where the modularity comes into play. So this second bay here is actually identical, there we go, to the battery bay that's on the other side. So this 6,300 milliamp hour battery nets the Toughbook 55 20 hours in MobileMark's Office Productivity Suite. But this is where things get really cool. You can actually chuck a second one into the other side. Now, I will say this does increase the weight of the unit fairly substantially for a whopping 40 hours. And if for whatever reason your application doesn't allow you to power down at all, you can even hot swap the batteries if you have spare ones on the side, so you just never have to power the thing down. Don't remove both of them, though. That would cause it to turn off. But as you guys can see, we have only just scratched the surface of all of our upgrade modules here. So why don't we go ahead and see what we can put in this slot. So once again, Panasonic has adapted the standard interface on this thing, which is presumably SATA, to their own interface that, I don't know what that would be. It must be PCI Express in some form or another. At any rate, that just pops in like that. Wow. This is like really easy. It's almost too easy. One thing that they did mention is that if you're like an administrator and you don't want your users just like accidentally popping their SSDs out, there are locking screws that you can put in. So that's the locking screw for the SSD, if I recall correctly, and I think this one is the locking screw so people don't accidentally like rip their optical drive out of the laptop. So this is a Blu-ray drive. This is basically the same as the DVD drive, except more blue, so I don't really need to show you guys that. I think what you guys want to see is the graphics card. You want to see the graphics card? I want to see the graphics card. So this is the GPU pack, and this is why I said that Panasonic's modular interface here must be some sort of PCI Express, because otherwise how on earth would you put what appears to be a GT551? GT550, I guess? I don't know. We're going to find out what kind of graphics card it is in just a moment, but the module looks pretty similar to our optical drive, except, of course, there's a cooling fan that happens to correspond with the ventilation holes on the bottom of the laptop. Just like that. It's a Radeon Pro WX4150. I've never even heard of that graphics card, but we're going to fire up some Rocket League on it nonetheless. Anyway, this update was downloading really slow, so I thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had an Ethernet jack? Now's a good time to have a look at the I/O of this thing. So we've got a USB 3 Type A, USB 3 Type C. There it is. We've got an Ethernet jack over here. We've got micro SDXC, headphone microphone combo jack. Of course, these have splash-resistant covers, just in case you get water on your laptop. It is IP53 rated, although Panasonic was very clear to me that I was not to leave it out in the rain. They were very clear about that. And the modularity continues, doesn't it, my friends? There is, of course, the I/O pack. If you'd like to add some